sort of how you kind of took him under your wing during training camp. What do you like about his game? Obviously, you guys have a little bit of a size differential. He plays a different kind of game, but it seems like you're a really big fan of what he does, and you've kind of taken him under your wing.
Hey man, a guy that loves to learn, a guy that comes to work every day and works hard, has a great particular set of skills. He's fast, he's quick, he's strong. He's one of the guys that always wants to have questions and wants to know more. Beginning of the season didn't have like a huge role. Kind of gave him a role midway through the season. He just kind of ran with it. So again, bro, he asks all the right questions. He does a good job in meetings. He's one of those guys who go, both before and after practice. So he's always working.
It seems like he's always around the ball too, no matter where it is.
Absolutely. So you take all those other intangibles, and then you go back and you kind of look at like what is it that really makes him tick, man. His effort, relentless effort to get to the ball and make good things happen when he gets there. So it's been a huge pleasure for me to be able to coach a guy like that.
He also was just talking about short week, the holiday, of course, just attention to detail. I know that's very cliche to say, but just the short period of time that we got to observe practice, doing the different tackle, whether it be tackle and circuit practice and the peanut punch, how important it is being able to focus on the little things because of just the way that this week is for you guys.
It's always important, especially on the defensive side. The small things matter. The attention to detail, those things matter. Whenever you go and you watch a play being broke down, whether it's a good or a bad play, it usually comes down to those small, minute details. So, whether it's small things like getting your eyes to the blocker or seeing a guy pull and getting your eyes to the correct target. Those are small things that in the grand scheme of things may go overlooked. But at the end of the day, those are the things that set guys apart. There's a very small scale between a guy being good and a guy being great, and it's always those attention to detail. So that's always something that we preach.
You were mostly on teams that only would lose 3 games in a year, not win. How has it been a change for you, and how do you try to keep a team that's not doing as well as they had hoped or the coaching staff had hoped? How do you keep them on track as you come to close out the season?
I think at the end of the day, it really comes back to kind of the recipe of all of it. It's even on those winning teams, it wasn't always about the end result. It was always about the recipe to getting there, which was practice execution becomes game reality. The attention to details, those small things. So whether you're winning or you're losing, there's usually the breaks and all of those. So continue to push the emphasis on those things.
Hearing you say that, it sounds like one of your old coaches, Nick Saban. Feels like he says that, just this first year for you, and I know you'll have more time to reflect in the next couple of weeks, but how has this year gone in terms of just teaching the game, and how much do you feel like, whether it be a guy like Bill, whether it be a guy like Nick, that you can kind of take steps back and be like, man, I feel like I remember when Nick would say this to me. I remember when Coach Belichick would say this to me.
I'm sure, I'll have plenty of time to reflect after that, but I think just as far as me playing, man, those were things that were big, pinnacles when I was playing. So obviously there'll be pinnacles while I'm coaching. Again, all those things those are really good coaches. Arguably, 2 of the better or best coaches that have done it. So I'll just try to bring with me with what I know. Those are obviously keys and elements to the game I played, and really in the philosophy that I believe in. Obviously, it's a philosophy here still. But those are the things that I'll, go back and sit back and talk about. But those are the conversations that we have in the LB room.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I was in Green Bay for 9 years, and I lived across from Detroit and Chicago. And to see what Detroit's doing right now, they literally were a play away in a lot of games for a long time. And then they got over that hump and they built some confidence and they're getting it back. So, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So, we're here to make sure that we take that step and we keep pushing for excellence.
It feels like, and this is the last question for me, I always go back to the quote from David Andrews, who's used it a couple times over the last year and a half or so, where he says, you got to learn how not to lose before you can figure out how to win. And it feels like you guys are kind of going through that in the middle of that,
Well, you got to believe. So you could be playing well and then something not go well, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, here we go again. Instead, where I've been in places where a mistake happens, and we're like, hey, next play, here we go, let's keep it rolling. No big deal. So like you got to get over that hump where, something happens bad and we give up a big play, and everybody's like, oh, here we go again. Right? We got to keep believing and working and pushing forward. And the guys have worked really hard. They're practicing hard. It's just we just got to be able to keep the confidence when things don't go your way, because this game's all about peaks and valleys. And you can watch any game. I don't know if it was the Colts and somebody the other day. They were down, 28 to whatever, and then they damn near came back and won the ball game. Like, so you just it's not always going to be like this. It's like this, and it's like this. And more importantly, how do you handle adversity when it happens? All right, and that's where guys start building confidence. Yep, absolutely. Appreciate it. Absolutely.
Hey, Jerry, can I ask a question about Jeremiah Farms?
Yeah.
How much has he progressed in your time with him? This guy, I mean, he's come so far as a player from the level where he started professionally to this point. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, just proud of the kid in general. He handles himself like a pro. And I've talked earlier in the season about him. Again, he goes above and beyond, and he truly treats it as a job. And what do I mean by that? He just doesn't come in the building and show up right before meetings start and leaves when meetings end. He's in here early. Every Thursday morning, he's at my desk at 5 a.m. All right, let's go through this. Let's go through this. And all he wants to do is see it through the eyes of a coach. So then, therefore, when he gets in the game, he can play faster. Okay? So he is one that goes above and beyond. All right? And he'd be the first one to tell you, like, he knows he's not, 6'7", 300 and whatever. So he's got to take advantage of everything he can. And he's the one guy that is consistent when it comes to that. And guess what? It shows up on game day. So there's no reason why that he's not having the success that he's having. It's because of the work that he's putting in. And it's a credit to that. So, yeah, he's grown. He's learned a lot about football. He's a more instinctual player than he was a year ago. But he also has a better idea of what's coming to him before it happens.
That lack of size and how he's been able to overcome that, I guess, for his position.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more technique-based? Is it effort, combination of both, knowledge of what the offense is doing?
It's a little bit of all of that.
Yeah.
Knowledge of what you're getting to allow you to play a technique a little bit better because you're getting a double team here. To know that you're getting protection here, to be able to get into a pass rush stance and get on an edge and have a work a move and study the individual that he's playing to know how he's going to set him. Like, all that carries over. And the great ones, they've got a notebook of every offensive lineman they play each week. And they keep adding to it every year, right? And so, like, he's no different. He takes good notes. He knows who he's playing. He knows how they're going to set him. He knows when he aligns this way he's going to. So, like, all that helps his game. And he needs it. And it shows.
I don't want to keep you longer than you have. Who's a model for you guys who've coached that be like a guy that was like set that standard as somebody who was a note taker?
Kenny Clark.
Kenny Clark, yeah.
Kenny Clark.
Yeah.
He takes notes today as a 9-10-year vet like he did as a rookie. And what's nice about that is he is a really good athlete. He is a really good player. But he's elite because of those things. They put him over the top because he's the first one in the building. He's the last one out. He works extremely hard. And he's a technician, but he studies like nobody else. So on top of him being a talented guy, he has that. But you ask him ever, you go work a Pro Bowl, you go work in your game, you ask him, you say, hey, you got a notebook of individuals that you faced? And he would be able to tell you, yeah, and he'd be able to pull it out and show you years of this offensive lineman that he's faced and how he's blocked him and those things like that.
And I imagine too, when a young guy comes in, sees him doing that.
The standard is set. This is the expectations.
Yeah.
And, so we're getting there. We're getting there. I mean, it's a process. So,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thanks. Just talking about just fundamentals and run fits, and I suppose it's late in the season. Not much. I mean, obviously you're always working on it when it comes to run defense. Do you see it the same way as why that's not to the standard that you want?
I think with everything you chase perfection, and run fits is a part of that. Where I'd say like the technique is part of it. Understanding what runs we're gonna get, game to game, series to series, is a part of it. So yeah, like all those details are something we can attack and keep raising our level of play in those areas. But I would say that fits amongst other areas where we'd say let's keep chasing it, let's keep getting better and better as the year goes on.
Forgive me, I haven't done the homework on this. Do you know Jesse Minter?
Love Jesse Minter.
Yeah.
I was with him for a long time in Baltimore. Great dude, really good football coach, like a elite person, elite coach. Like, I'm excited to see him before the game. He's a great dude.
What makes him distinct? Because obviously he shows up, and for most of the league, for most of the year, they were number one in defense. Michigan's last year defense speaks for itself.
Yeah.
What is different about his approach?
Yeah, he's a great leader of men. He's a great connector with each and every player. He can relate to those guys, and I think everybody would run through a wall for him. That's number one. Two, he works at it really hard. In every facet of the game, he wants to study it to create edges and create advantages for his team. And I think part of that is applying aggression in some areas, and some of it is taking away what other teams do best. And he really has a good balance of that. And you've seen it. His success at Michigan, going 15-0, win a national championship there with that crew and Coach Harbaugh, all those great coaches and players there. And then to be able to translate that at the next level, it's not a surprise at all. He was a big part of our success in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So you can see why that would happen there.
I was reading earlier today actually how I know you guys will break things down, say 3rd and 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 and longer, but he'll tweak that week to week based on the tendencies of the play caller, find out where their dividing lines are. Does that resonate? Is that accurate from your experience?
For sure, yeah. I think that's somewhat of the norm in the NFL. Is you'd
Okay.
say like, okay, what do teams do in these areas? What do you try to take away in those areas?
But it sounds like he moves those lines, which I had never heard before. So
For sure, yeah. I think those lines are movable week to week for teams.
Okay.
And I mean, that would be with him and a lot of these coordinators, DC included. That changes week to week based on like what you're trying to take away, what calls you feel good about in each range, and he's going to be as detailed as they come. And he's really sharp in-game adjustments. You look at some of those games in the second half. He does a great job. Like that's a guy that, when he has success, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that's ever been around him.
Yeah, last quick one. Anything specific, like a nugget or a lesson or a phrase that you took from your time with him?
Yeah, I think just, the preparation breeds confidence. And I think when he was the DB's coach, we had really senior players in that room, Eric Weddle, Earl Thomas, and he worked hard enough where he would have nuggets that a guy that was in the league for 15 years would hear, and it would click for the first time. And, he just wanted to outwork everybody, and then at the same time use that information to relate to these players, whether it's a first-year guy or a 15-year guy. So none of it is a fluke. None of it comes by surprise. It's a great football coach and an even better guy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you. Yeah, thanks, man. Good
And everything that was going on.
Yeah, a light rain
Yeah.
is always good.
Lowest completion percentage, yards per attempt, passer rating, all that versus you guys.
Yep.
Compared to anyone else in the league. Common threads besides playing well. Like how do you explain that success against a guy who's obviously very good?
So I think he's, like you said, he's a great player. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's obviously looked at those games and, has probably done some work and like, hey, they were doing this versus me, they were doing this. So, he studies, you could tell he studies when you watch him versus other opponents. He's very locked into what the defense is doing. You could just attribute it to, last year, the weather, probably not playing so great, but, he's a good player. They also couldn't get the running game going much last year, and but I mean with Harbaugh,
Yeah.
they're going to try to get that going. So
It seems like his teams, Michigan last year, the Niners before that, obviously now this year, there's like a level of toughness and fundamentals that you just have to you got to knock them out. Am I reading that? The same
but
way?
it's not just him, right? It's Greg Roman.
Right. The staff, the program.
Like Roman. When you're getting ready for a Roman game, you better bring your hard hat.
Yeah.
Like Greg Roman is going to run the ball. Like he's getting ready to go, and the difference between him here versus him in Baltimore, he just doesn't have like Lamar to do all that
Quarterback there.
extra gap running game, which is difficult to handle.
Yeah.
I'm sure he probably has a couple of plays for Herbert in this game, but
It's just a different element. Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. And,
Yeah.
you know, Greg Roman, you know, plans that out pretty well.
Yeah.
And he speaks to the head coach's mentality, right?
Yeah.
Of tough, hard-nosed, old school football.
Yeah.
So,
Appreciate you, Mike.
yeah, no problem. Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are
Did you
you?
have a nice holiday?
I did. How was yours? Fantastic.
The Chargers' fleet of receivers with McConkey.
Yeah.
And
Really good.
just a couple others there.
Yeah,
But-
Palmer, Johnston.
Palmer, yeah.
And then you got
Quinn
Davis.
Johnson.
Yep.
Davis, yep. Is there, you know, when
Got
you
Charlton
guys,
too. Sorry, go ahead. I keep coming.
when you, when you're playing man to man or
Yep.
even going from series to series, man to man, is it important to kind of plot Christian first? And do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You have to
It's
figure-
where we're putting them. And, you know, sometimes we move them around within the game. Sometimes we'll just leave them on one side or on one person. But being flexible is what this defense was built off of. And it's been that way for 40 years, as somebody would once say. Been
Yeah.
doing this for 40 years. You know, you got to be flexible. And you got to be able to change. And being on the sidelines very, very easy because, you know, he could look at me and we could just make a quick adjustment and
Yeah,
get going from there.
you've talked to me about his versatility
Yep.
too, being able to play anywhere. Like
Yep.
if McConkey's the guy you want him on, and he's in the slot, that's where Christian's going to be. You have no problem. at all.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, but I have a lot of faith in John to get the job done as a nickel as well. So
Yeah.
it's not like it has
It's
to
like
be
it's-
this way.
Like it's not etched in stone. I know Christian would probably like whoever the best guy is. He wants the best
Yep.
and the heart but sometimes it's not that simple. You know.
Yep. Yeah, it's not as simple as, hey, we're gonna do this. He's gonna go there because now you need a good support group around him, right? You need a guy that can also play inside. You need a guy that can slide outside. You know, those things are difficult, especially if there's size on the perimeter. You know, you create a matchup while you're trying to take away a matchup. So you just got to think about those things. You got to be very calculated when you're going to do them.
Is the Chargers arsenal that you just described,
Yes.
while difficult, kind of fun to try and plot?
Oh my God, I have so
Yeah.
much fun game planning every week. I mean, you could look at my gray hair, but you know, a team like this definitely gives you some gray hairs. You know, they can do a lot, and especially when they have a great quarterback. But it's the same thing looking at Buffalo the week before. You know,
Yeah.
like it's fun to get ready for because it challenges you mentally. I guess that's the excitement that I'm talking about. Is like being challenged mentally to go out there with a game plan and trying to go out there and execute it.
When you have a weapon like Christian, again, plotting him into the right, that's fun too.
Yeah,
I would
that's
think.
it's good. It's good. So I mean,
You've had some experience though with that.
yeah.
With
Doing that with Steph. I learned a lot my first year doing that with Steph. And, you know, if I didn't have a support group like John Jones and Jason McCourty, like a lot of times they would, you know, fix things on the field. Be like, oh, we didn't really talk about this, but John, you go here, I'll go here. You know, those guys are really smart guys and work around Steph. And I know Steph got Defensive Player of the Year, but those two I attribute credit to as well because they allowed him to play fast and go to all those spots.
now that I've dominated and manipulated,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
3 minutes and 25 seconds.
Talking general ball, you know,
Oh.
that was a great technique play by John Jones.
Yeah.
And not
Yes.
just that,
Yeah.
but like.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
Shakir was laying on top of him, so it was tough for him to like get his arm back right. And I think he got confused of where the ball got out because he looked here. I was standing right there,
Yeah.
and me and Drew Wilkins were joking about
Yeah.
it. It was like it took every ounce of us not to jump on the field and grab the ball. But it was a great punch out, and he's done that over his whole career, and he has a really good feel for when's a great time to punch.
Guys, let's take two more here. He's what would you say his level of play is? You know, 9th year in the league. Like you see him still.
Yeah, for John. John is a great player. I have a lot of respect for John. Again, I think John's one of the toughest guys on the team. John, like you guys don't see it, but John, you know, is banged up a lot. He's finally feeling good. You know, that early part of the year, I mean, like he was hurting. He was really, really hurting, and he fought through it. Didn't complain, didn't ask for plays off. I got to protect him from himself because he's like, I'm out there. Like, I'm going. And I'm like, hey, buddy, why don't we take a couple of reps off here? He's like, no. All right, come on. Please, can we just take a couple of reps off? that's the type of guy he is. That's the type of competitor. He's an old school football player. He's one of a kind.
And from the outside looking in, it seems like you've wanted to, maybe not you, but like the team has wanted to look at Austin, even Zay for a little bit.
And again, that's protecting John from himself a little bit. Try to, mix those guys in.
Anything you learned?
He can go. That's all right. Yeah.
Then I don't want to.
No,
I was just gonna say anything. You've talked a lot, and I've been in. Heard you about Austin. Heard you about Zay. But anything that you've learned more about him just from seeing more of the film of him on game day. The last 3-4 times.
I feel like I know my guys pretty well. Like coming out of camp, I get really proud when they go out there and they show who they are. That's for me. That's like the point where I'm like, I'm really excited. I get very proud of that.
I can tell.
I know it's not necessarily in his personality to advocate for himself or something like this, so I wanted to come to you and ask specifically, should we be talking more about Christian Gonzalez as either a comeback player of the year or a defensive player of the year?
I mean, you can talk about him however you want. I mean, all you got to do is turn on the tape. And I said that my last media session. I mean, if guys aren't talking about him, that's negligence. I mean, I don't know. Like, the guy's playing at a very high level. I don't care what anybody says, and that's how I feel about the guy. And, he's a great competitor. And honestly, the thing that makes him an even better competitor, he doesn't care about any of these awards. He just wants to win. He wants to go out there and compete. So what more can you ask for out of a guy that really doesn't care about all the glory, the awards? He just wants to win. So that's my message. Just watch the tape, and you guys would figure it out.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, good chat.
So I got a little off the beaten path. 20th anniversary, 2004 coming up. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Nice.
Doing a whole podcast on it again. I'm talking to a lot of players and coaches. Just from your perspective, what do you remember about? I know you were a kid at that point, but whether it was from your view, whether it was from the actual football team, which I'm sure you guys probably still show clips from, but just what do you remember about that 2004 season?
Great team. It was coming off of 2003, which ended with a long winning streak, and then it carried over to 2004. So there was the 21 game win streak that was carried over that